They want to bash everybody that had problems with it. Well, they're the head of the group. I texted last night and said, I could out you with some text messages that we went back and forth on what you believed in that didn't come true. But I didn't do that. But it's a fun time. It's neat that everybody's into it so much.
So you have great text messages from Spike Eskin. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't name names, but
hey, you can make a lot of money with those these days. Just send them to Howard. I'm sure Howard would pay a nice penny for those.
I'm not about that. Let's just say nobody gets it all right, but some of us know a little bit more than others.
More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Retweet Armageddon was awesome. Welcome back into the Zach Gelb Show right here on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. But there could be some interesting text messages that could expose maybe Spike Eskin. So instead of assuming, we would go to the man that could potentially be texting Bob Cooney things from a few years ago. And we welcome in Spike Eskin, of course, who runs Sports Radio 94 WIP right now. Spike, true or false, Bob Cooney has some interesting texts from you.
Can I be honest with you? Hearing that, actually sort of makes me mad. And you're laughing. I'm actually sort of angry right now.
Why are you angry?
Well, I like Bob. I would consider Bob a friend, and I think Bob is a good writer. What I tried to explain to Bob is that the retweet Armageddon thing, as silly as it is, and it's so funny to talk about it in a serious way, as silly as it was not about being right or wrong. I said to him, we're all wrong all the time. If we were all good at picking out which players were good and who would win the games, we would not be sitting here talking about it in the media. We would be gambling on it somewhere or working for a team. But that's not what we do. It was not about being wrong. It was about everyone who was, I would say, there was a solid 3 years of people being angry and disrespectful and condescending about what was going on with the Sixers and treating the people who believed in it like they were idiots or sheep or things like that. So the ire was directed toward them. And by the way, me and my podcast co-host were the victims of it as well. And I can't believe how sensitive the local media is, or some of the local media, over being involved in that. So would Bob have a text message of me saying that Kendall Marshall will be a good three-point shooter and he wasn't? Sure, I'm sure Bob does. I'm sure I said that. I said lots of things that were wrong, but I'm not sensitive about it, and they are. So if Bob has a problem with it, then Bob should say he has a problem with it and not hide behind but it's good fun. He doesn't think it's good fun. He's worried about being wrong. You can't be in this business and be worried about being wrong. And so I'm sorry. It annoys me because if he had a problem with it, I wish he would have said something.
Well, maybe you should stop debating your father, and maybe you do a celebrity boxing match with Bob Cooney.
I'm too old for that now. Bad back, bad hip. Maybe 10 years ago.
Come on, you can't say that you're too old. Like, Bob is much older than you, no?
Well, now you're insulting Bob. You can box with Bob now.
It's going to be awkward when I see him tomorrow night. I will tell you this, because it was fascinating to hear how you explained retweet Armageddon, because many people will define it a different way. The way I looked at it was, and I was someone, and I've told you this before, I didn't always believe in Sam Hinkie. I bashed Sam Hinkie a lot, but I'm someone that I could admit that, hey, I'm probably going to be wrong on it, and that's the way I look at it, that there's so many people, including your father, which we talked about, who I love, and Howard, who he can't admit that he was wrong on this thing, or it looks like he's going to be wrong.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I can't. It seems undebatable. It seems undebatable that they were able to get the best player in the draft because of what Sam did, and they're adding him to a core of other young, great players. They'll have the best young core in the NBA because of what Sam did. I think there's no – it seems – now, you might not like how he did it. You might not have liked but the results at this point, which is what everybody wanted, are pretty undebatable. So
and the only thing that crowd is going to say that will still passionately hate Sam Hinkie, they're going to say, oh, well, Embiid could still get hurt, and we haven't seen Simmons play a game yet, and Fultz, he hasn't even been drafted yet, but they'll say he hasn't got on the court yet, and he's lost 9 games. That's what they're going to say in these arguments.
Well, you know what I hear a lot from them? They go, well, blank is no guarantee, and this is no guarantee, and that's no guarantee. Well, no kidding. I think we would agree that LeBron James is the best player in the entire NBA. So the team that had the best player in the entire NBA also did not have a guarantee of winning the championship. If there's a guaranteed way to do it, please lay it out for me. Let's send it to the GMs of each team in Philadelphia, and then we'll have a guarantee of being a championship team. But there's no guarantee for anyone anytime. What you look for is promise and hope and talent, and I think we have all those things here now.
I need your reaction when Joel Embiid got in on Retweet Armageddon. You must have been jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store, right?
I had a heart attack, right? So I'm sitting on my phone, and I am waiting for John Gonzalez, who was writing for The Ringer, to give me a call. He did a feature on all this stuff today. And the phone rings right after I'd seen it, and I answer the phone, and I go, Gonzo, Joel Embiid just retweeted my dad and used the hashtag. I'm out of here. And I hang up the phone, and it was unbelievable.
It definitely was, as we're joined by Spike Eskin right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Hey, I don't know if you saw this yet, which I'm sure you did, but Keith Pompey said that the Sixers already sold 14,000 season tickets for next year, and they expect all 41 home games to be a sellout. How about this for the Sixers fan? That's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's 40, and I'm one of the 14,000. I'm a season ticket holder there, and to go from not just the last 4 years having a half-empty building, but the last decade and a half having a half-empty building to 41 sellouts is mind-blowing. It's incredible.
When this trade got finalized on Monday, and we'll get into the trade in just a second, but you look at the divide that has been in this fan base of process versus anti-process, and I defined it on Monday as a day to celebrate Sam Hinkie, but also to start liking Brian Colangelo. Do you agree with that assessment?
100%. He pulled off a great trade. I said at one point that I will say what Brian Colangelo, what many people say about me. I don't like your father, but you're all right. And I think he deserves. He didn't step into, regardless of how he got the job, he stepped into a minefield of a situation with a bunch of people who are ready to credit his predecessor for what he does. It takes some guts to step into that situation, and then it seems like there was a stare down with him and Danny Ainge, and Ainge backed down a little bit, and I think the trade is probably good for both sides, but it's as long as it's good for us, it's good for me.
But I feel like it's more of a win for the Sixers just because of those protections. I thought they would have had to give up a lot more. I feel like I'm missing something here because Danny Ainge usually doesn't lose a trade like this.
Well, I don't think that you can only say he lost a trade based on what they think of the players, right? So if the Celtics didn't really see much of a difference between Fultz and whoever they would get at 3, then it's a win for them. It's only that the problem is we don't know what the market was for the number 1 pick. So the Lakers can't really trade up because we have their pick, and because we have their 2018 pick, then they can't trade a pick until 2020 because of the Sepien rule in the NBA. So who knows really what was out there to move up? And if there's not enough out there to move up and the Sixers had the best offer, then it's fair on both sides, So especially if the Celtics want to hold on to Isaiah Thomas. And if the Celtics want to be good next year, you can't be good. You can't be championship good with a 19-year-old point guard. So I don't know, but I know we didn't lose the trade. I know the Sixers didn't lose the trade, so that's good.
All right, what do you like about Fultz?
So after this happened, I watched even more than I had watched on him because I was one of the things that bothered me watching him the first time is that he's not crazy explosive. But what you realize after you watch him is there's a smoothness to his game and his ability to sort of get anywhere he needs to on the floor. And his handle is not it's not like a highlight type of handle, right? It's not the kind of handle that Iverson had or Tim Hardaway have. But when you watch him, he's able to get by guys. He's smooth, he's crafty, sort of in the way that James Harden is, in the way that Tony Parker was. Not guys that are going to cross you up and make you fall down, but sort of a hesitation dribble. So he can get anywhere he wants on the floor. He's got great court vision. He's got I would say he's a plus athlete. He's not an elite athlete, but he's a plus athlete. He's a really solid passer, and the jump shot is, he shot really well from 3. His free throw percentage was sort of iffy, but it looks right. So, and he's long. He reminds me of Drew Holiday physically a little bit, in that he's only 6'4", 6'5", but his arms are so long that it looks like when he's committed to it, he could probably be a real good defender. He's perfect for what we need right now.
Now, the three negatives that we're hearing about him, the free throw percentage, which he can improve on and you expect him to improve on, could be better defensively. But here's another one, the 9 wins being a concern. We've had on a lot of guests this week. Coach Chili said not a concern. Mike Jones said not a concern. But Seth Greenberg and also Lionel Hollins said that is a concern. Where do you fall on the 9 wins topic?
I would have rather it have been 20 wins. We all would, right? But he decided to go to a team who lost players that he didn't expect would lose. Like Marquise Chris should have still been at Washington. Instead, he was starting in the NBA, and who knows what that team is like if he's there. I think it says something that he kept his promise to go there, even though the players that he thought were going to be there left. Would I have rather the team had been good? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But when I'm watching him, I don't know. I don't see what he's doing being the reason that they're not winning. And really, here's the deal: like, he doesn't need to be the best player on this team. You know, he could be the third best player on this team, and it could still be a championship core. You know, behind Simmons and Embiid. So I'm not that concerned.
And that's what makes it so fun, because you have all these guys. You're going to have 2 rookies next year. Simmons hasn't played a game yet, and also Fultz, and they'll both be battling out Rookie of the Year all year. And then you get Embiid trying to play a full season. And I was looking back at the tweet that Josh Jackson sent out that B.J. Armstrong probably told him to quickly delete. And the way I interpreted that tweet from Josh Jackson was maybe he was a little bit annoyed that they traded the pick, because I would have to assume if you're a young guy, you want to be a part of what the Sixers are building right now.
Well, and if I'm Josh Jackson, why do I want to go to the Celtics, who have a 12-man rotation, you know, who already have Jay Crowder, who already have Jaylen Brown, who already has Marcus Smart, who, you know, was drafted as a point guard but really just sort of plays like a wing position for them. You know, do I want to come into the league and play, you know, playing on a good team is great, but do I want to come into the league and play 14 minutes a game in my first game? You know, and by the way, maybe be a trade chip within the first year of getting there? I don't know. I want to go there and build something, and I don't know if a young player going to the Celtics is going there to build something.
Wrapping up with Spike Eskin, what's next for the Sixers? I know there's some rumors about Porzingis. I don't see that happening. J.J. Redick could be someone they target in free agency. What do you expect to happen next?
As much as I love Porzingis, I do love Porzingis. I don't think he's a great fit. Look, if there was a way to get him without giving up a major asset, I would do it. I think he's a great player. I don't think he's a perfect fit. I've heard Redick too. I've heard Redick. You know, I don't think Redick is going back to the Clippers. I think he's a good fit here, especially if you can sign him for, you know, what would be great would be a huge deal for 2 years. If we have to do 3 years, that's fine too. But that's it. It's the position they're going to be missing is a 2-guard, you know, in positionless NBA. But if you're talking about Fultz, Simmons, Covington, and Embiid starting, I don't think starts. I think you need one more guard wing type player, and I think that's what they need to do in free agency.
Since we're on the topic of what's next, let's get back to Hinkie, and we'll get to the person that you genuflect to in Sam Hinkie. What's next in his career? Do you think he'll have a job next year?
I think he'll have a job if there's a situation that he wants. I don't think him finding an opportunity is the key. I think he was blindsided by an ownership that he thought was all in on what he was doing and not being all in. So I think the biggest question for Sam will be to find a situation in which he's going to have an ownership that he feels stable with. So if he finds that out, there's not a ton of open GM jobs right now. And, you know, I don't think he'll be offered Cleveland. But if you're in Cleveland, he's not going to Cleveland. You know, he's not going to a place where you're third in charge behind LeBron and Dan Gilbert. So I think the opportunity has to be there. And if it's not, maybe he goes and works in a front office that he believes in until the opportunity pops up. But I think he will be in the NBA again.
I hate to put this thought in your head, but what about the Knicks when Phil Jackson eventually gets fired?
But the ownership's crazy.
Yeah,
you know,
we
like
all know that.
Yeah,
that's an understatement.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that the ownership's crazy. I mean, you know, whoever makes Knicks. I grew up a Knicks fan. I'm no longer a Knicks fan, but in my teens I was a Knicks fan. It is
really.
Yeah, huge. I have a John Starks poster in my office.
He was, by the way, the first guest when we launched the show over a year ago. He was our first guest, John Starks.
My favorite athlete of all time, John Starks. I love him. And whoever Knicks fans do, I hate the Knicks now, but their fans are very good and they deserve a great team. And I think it's a great basketball market. And whoever makes the Knicks great, whoever brings that team back to the forefront will be a hero forever. And I think that's why it's enticing for coaches and front office people and players. But that owner is crazy. So I don't think so. I don't think it's a spot for him.
In private, does your dad admit that he was wrong about this process? Will he do it to you?
I've never seen him admit that he was wrong ever.
Never in his life?
Never.
Okay. Like, not even when he yelled at you when you were a kid and he said, I went a little bit too far there, maybe?
Never.
All right, Spike, what do you guys got planned for the draft with the podcast and everything?
So I will be on WIP here with John Marks and Joe DeCamera here on tomorrow night, and then we'll do another podcast. We did a podcast today, Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast today, and we'll do another one after the draft tomorrow night.
Great stuff, Spike. We appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Zach.